I think we're live. Yes, we are. Welcome, everybody, and Happy New Year. Happy 2022. And so happy to see you all here at our live Real Talk with Nina. And today's guest is Neil Carroll. And we had Neil already slated back in God knows when last year. And we had a little bit of an oops and had to cancel the show because I got locked out of my LinkedIn profile. So this is take two. And it's much better because of it. And I'm very, very excited because Neil also is a video marketer. He's a filmmaker. He's the real deal. And I am super, super excited to welcome you, Neil, to our live show today.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, and I'm glad we were able to kind of reschedule and make it happen. So that's
Yes.
excellent. Happy New Year to anybody who's out there checking this out.
Thanks. And yes, absolutely. So, Neil, why don't you introduce yourself such that it's also kind of we understand what it is that you do in the video marketing and video world.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Neil Carroll, and I'm the founder of Vidwheel LLC. And we used to be a traditional video production house, but then,
Mhm.
as so many people have had happen, the pandemic hit. A lot of things got locked down. We used to travel a lot. We had a studio. All that kind of went away overnight, and we ended up kind of changing what we did. So instead of having people come to us because we could make better video content than they could, we switched it. So now we're helping folks make the best possible content they can in their home or office. And we
Mhm.
do that through what we call the VidWheel Creator Network, which is kind of a community based
Mhm.
approach to helping folks out. So there's a lot of community support, there's coaching, we help people with gear. We help people get over whatever kind of speed bumps they're having with creating video content.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's the
Sounds similar to what we do, and yet I think our approaches are quite different. So, and we'll get into that a little more. I just want to say hi to Charmaine, who is watching us on Facebook. Happy New Year to you too, Charmaine. Thank you so much. And Charmaine is has been in our orbit in our community actually for quite a while. She's done quite a few of our video challenges, which is one of the things that we started doing in 2020 when we're all of a sudden homebound and didn't know what to do with ourselves, right? So. So like you, we started as we were for 2 decades a traditional production company. So I'm super curious what happened at your end? What was the thought process or the catalyst that got you to move to the model that you're in now? Was it just the pandemic or was there already a shift happening pre-pandemic?
yeah, that's a great question. So throughout, like I've started or attempted to start a number of businesses through my life, right? So I've got
Mhm.
a true appreciation for the solopreneur, the person who's got an idea and wants to go make a business out of it. And it's like a
Mhm.
really difficult thing to do. My
Yeah.
first several flopped. And so throughout my whole career and owning that firm, or the company that I was in the old format, I was always trying to find ways back to helping out that solopreneur.
Yeah.
And so I think that had a little bit to do with it. The
Mhm.
pandemic hit, I saw an opportunity to help that cohort of people out.
Mhm.
And then the other huge piece was I've got two little ones at home. And all of a sudden, I was not just running my business, but I also was a virtual kindergarten teacher and a daycare head, because everybody was home for a year and a half or
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
And so I had to focus on how to continue to use the skill set I had without so much of the hands-on work, right? The post-production,
Yeah.
the kind of project-based work. So that was really what brought it all about.
Yep. So so really interesting for me is that your community, you're setting them up with equipment, which is something that we don't do, because I firmly believe that with your iPhone or your smartphone, you have what you need. So I'm very curious, um, how that came about. And I've seen your, it's a beautiful, guys, it's a beautiful case that Neil sends out to his community. And I'm green with envy over it. It's really beautiful. Um, so I'm really curious, because I see with the people I work with often sort of the overwhelm or the hump of technology, is real. So adding, a professional, it's a Canon EOS, I think that you send out, and a beautiful, the light we need to talk about because ring
Right.
lights. Oh yeah,
That's one
yeah.
of the spots that we
Oh yeah,
differ. So
yeah.
yeah, we'll get
Yes.
there.
Anyway, but there is a light and there is a microphone.
Yep.
So how did that come about? Because I mean that's also an investment on your side, and so how does that work?
Yeah, so that actually kind of came about. I guess there was kind of two pieces that led to that. So um, I tried to continue to work with the same clientele on some level that I had worked with prior to the
Hmm.
pandemic hitting. And that led me to trying to create a kit that I could send out to do remote shoots. Um, and then further development of that kit ended up with what we have now, which is what I'm on right now, right?
Yeah,
You were right. It's a Canon M50, so a little mirrorless body camera. It is a ring light, which does not work for everyone, and we'll get to that. And
yeah,
then it also comes with a Blue Yeti mic, which we choose
mm,
because it's very kind of flexible
yeah,
in terms of a lot of our members do different types of videos and so on.
yeah,
So we ended up developing that kit, and the real catalyst to making that happen was when Canon went and put out their software patch that let you use a lot of their modern cameras as webcams, which is the
ah, yeah,
EOS webcam utility uh, little piece of software.
hmm,
And so that allowed us to do a lot higher quality video for folks either on video meetings, live streams like this, recording themselves. And it allowed a lot of flexibility
hmm,
with that kit. Um, and I guess the big plus of putting everybody on the same kit is that we can provide really specific technical support.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, the idea of like my webcam's not doing X, and then we have to figure out what it is and figure out how to fix it. We
yeah,
don't run into that as often. There's
yeah,
certainly our share of technical things, but most of them we've kind of run into at this point, and we're able to get them solved.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't remember where I started that whole rambling answer, but
No,
I
no,
think
no.
I've
It's so
kind of got them
interesting.
answer. I think I've
It's
got 'em
getting,
kind
it's
of
why the kit, why, and I
right.
I really, I mean, for me, what you're bringing home for me very clearly is everybody's on the same damn equipment. Because I
Right.
know my hiccup is always, and it's one of the first questions I ask a potential client is, are you on an iPhone or an Android? And
Mhm.
when they're on an Android, I'm always like, oh, I hope they're technically savvy enough to know how to deal with their
Right,
Android, because
right,
I
right.
sure as hell am not, right? Now, I would say about 80% of the people we work with are on iPhone, and so I'm an iPhone user, so that makes it a lot easier. And we don't do microphone at all, because I figured the less you build up between you and the fear of doing video, the quicker and better you get to it. And but I own my own Blue Yeti as well, and quite frankly, I'm so lazy. I have a Mac. What is this? 2019.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't sound any worse than, I mean, you just have a great voice.
Great
Have
voice,
to
great
say,
mic.
yes.
Yeah.
I must say, your voice is just made for voiceovers and soothing. I don't know, something or other. Like, I would love to hear some bedtime stories in your voice.
Well, that'll be a different segment, I guess, right? We'll do
That will be a different segment. Yes, absolutely. But I love the idea of sending out a case. I would imagine, I would venture to guess that it also kind of how to say that, it ties people to you in a positive way, right? They make a commitment to you and your community because they're getting this nice camera. Are they buying it? Is it on loan?
That's a great question. Well, first I'm going to tackle one thing, which is your Android problem. We have that same issue
Yep.
with the kits, which the technical like area where things can come together or fall apart
Hmm.
is when we plug this kit into your computer
Uh-huh.
itself, right?
Yeah.
So people's
Yeah.
computers are the X factor, and whether they're
Yeah.
running Mac or PC, or what their technical specs are. So
Yeah.
we actually moved on and now are offering what's called the VidKit Plus, which comes with a little uh, Dell touchscreen laptop right in the case that is like more of a push button thing to try and mitigate that further. Um,
Wow.
but and then I've already forgotten the second part. See, this live thing. I told you I was
I know it's
gonna.
terrible, right? So the second part was it's making people be like a part.
Oh yes, right,
The buy-in is much higher than just spending a couple $100 on the community and
right.
dropping out whenever you please, right?
Yeah. So what we do to kind of mitigate the whole, big upfront cost issue that can
Hmm.
potentially be there
Yeah.
is we offer a monthly subscription
Hmm.
that then the case goes to you, but you don't own the case, or the kit with the monthly subscription. You actually gain ownership of it if you buy in at the annual price point.
Okay.
So at the same time, and this isn't published, but if you stick around for a year, you get to keep the kit. Don't tell anybody that,
Let's edit that one out.
all right?
Um, okay, good. I mean, I love the idea, and I'm like I always have to pull myself back, and my team always sort of I mean, I see them rolling their eyes in my mind's my head in my head. I don't think they actually do it, but when I see something new, I immediately get like this massive amount of FOMO. I'm like, oh, what if we had a kit that we could
Right.
send out, and in this beautiful case, and we can put a logo on it, and when I saw your case, I was like, "Oh, this is nice. This is really
Well,
nice." Yeah,
I will say the hardware, though it makes a lot of the tech support and stuff easier, is a
yeah,
headache. And you know, I've got to front all that money out of the business, and it's like, so it's added a layer of complexity for sure.
yeah,
That
yeah.
is, whether it was the right business decision or not, remains to be seen, I guess. But
Right.
that's what we're rolling with right now. So, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so Chella, who's also a good friend of ours, just said she will keep your secret. So thank you,
Okay.
Chella.
Thank you for that.
And it's also equipment changes and so this is another question I have for you. Do you make is and this is maybe sort of off topic right now, but I'm actually interested in it because I think it's relevant in the long run. As small business owners, and I'm venturing to get. I'm guessing that you don't have like 300 people in your community, right? You probably have a couple of dozen or so.
Right.
Is it worth it to make deals with vendors, or are you like how does that work for you?
So, from a hardware standpoint, we don't have any specific deals, and that's part of the reason that we don't sell the kit. Right? If
Yeah.
we had vendor deals, it might make sense to just be
Mhm.
like, "Don't want to join the community? Here's the kit." But
Mhm.
because we're buying everything retail, and sometimes we can do a little better by buying in bulk, or
Yeah, yeah,
going through different channels. But it's really about providing what we feel like is the best kind of value
mhm,
to our clients,
mhm,
and uh, making sure that they have what they need to succeed, putting that in their hands, and then we kind of go from there. So it's not a moneymaker, the kit itself, but it is an important part of what we're trying to help people realize and help people do for their businesses.
mhm. Okay, cool.
So
So back to the meat of the of what we're here for. So you now have a community. They're all equipped with, they all have the same equipment plus their X factors, and they themselves being, a big X factor too, right?
right.
So what do they get out of, like, how does video, like, give us a couple of examples, like what does video, how do they use video, what does video do for them, in concrete examples? I'm super curious to hear about that.
Yeah, so we have members who are creating video courses
Hmm.
through the system, and the feedback and courses and everything that we have up in the community. We have folks who are creating video podcasts as like a consistent marketing message with the breakout, little breakouts that can be used for social media fodder and so on. We have folks who use it for training and consulting purposes, where
Hmm.
they're able to reach a lot further and get that higher production value on their training um, contracts and so on
Yep.
through this type of setup. And the most surprising thing to me, from kind of early on, is a number of the folks who have kind of come and gone just wanted to get what I have going on right now, right? The best
Yep.
looking video feed for their
Mhm.
Zoom calls, for their live streams,
Oh,
for
really?
that type of
Hmm.
use case. And those folks tend to be a little more transactional, uh, versus like really building up what they're trying to their skill set through
Hmm.
the community. But that's another cohort of customers that we've had.
Interesting. Now, do they take part in your community, or they, as you said, they're just transactional?
Not as much. They might
Yeah.
do some light touches, right? They might show up to a couple of the events that we have and
Mhm.
things like that, and they'll do some consulting with myself directly at the beginning of their kind of time there, but they are a little more transactional. So, they
Okay,
might
got
be
it.
heavy use for a month and then kind of fade out.
Because they
So
got what they needed, right?
right. So that's what it comes down to, is what do people need? And we we're trying to accommodate a kind of wide breadth of uses,
Hmm.
and that just happens to be one that
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I didn't anticipate early on, and it would appear that's what some people are most interested in. So
Yeah, interesting. And it's interesting that you bring that up, because I have had people who kind of did like the same thing, where they're like, I got what I needed. Thank you so much. And bye bye. And I'd be, yeah, but you're not done yet. And they're like, no, I
yes,
am done. And in a way, it's great, because those are people who know what they value their time. They're very
right,
precise in what they want and need. And then, rather than carrying that sort of dead weight around, they're in. And then when they're in, they're totally in. And then they're out because they got what they needed.
yeah,
And in the beginning, my ego was a little bruised, and then at some point, I was like, "Oh, and actually, this is actually a good thing, because I gave them what they wanted, they paid for it,
yep.
and then their time is money. So yes, I'm happy to have helped you."
Right, right. And they walk away happy when they're
Yeah,
having conversations about you. They're probably
yeah.
saying complimentary things and so on. So
So we can only
that's
hope. Yep.
yeah, that's just where they fit in.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but that said, I mean, the folks I love to work with, and I would imagine you're in the same boat, are the people who are more, this video thing's a journey. Like, we're
Yes.
going to learn how to do this, and then we're going to incrementally improve, and then we're going to
Yep.
start this other thing. And it can be such a huge part of a small business
Hmm.
owner's kind of, well, business in just about
Yeah.
every aspect they could
Yeah.
use it. So
And it's not just a marketing arsenal. It's, how you show up. I mean, I've never done this, and I always like after some like, damn, I should do this. Like, when they show up on the first call, and they're like, their
Right.
nose is on the bottom
Yes.
of the frame, and you can see the whole ceiling and up their nose hair and all that.
Yep.
And then, a couple of calls into your Zoom calls, they're like, ooh, they're actually showing up properly.
Yes. Right. They're actually, yeah, looking the
Yep.
part. And that's more and more important these days. This is a
Yes,
discussion
absolutely.
we have all the time in the community. Like you can open a lot of doors by like really embracing what video can do.
Mhm.
I mean, you and I are a good example.
Yep.
You're in Switzerland, I'm in Buffalo. We're talking, a good distance apart, and we are you wouldn't be able to do that if we weren't choosing this format. So like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
especially for smaller cities and smaller markets, which
Yep.
Buffalo is a very small market in the States. We, I think folks are missing a lot of opportunity if they're not embracing this uh, way of reaching out and,
Yep.
touching a lot of users out there. So,
Yeah, and you don't, it's not like you have to go global, but you can go statewide, you can go area wide. I mean, it just
right.
allows you. I mean, I still work mostly with American clients now. Officially, no, I wouldn't mind having a couple of European clients in there too. But it really doesn't matter where I am as long as I'm happy to deal with whatever, um, you know, time shift or time
Right.
a time zone I need to deal with, right? So, other than that, I'm fine being wherever I want to be in the world.
Right, right. Yeah, the example I always use is prior to the pandemic, we were having people like I've already said, we would travel or we'd have people come to the
Mhm.
studio. But since then, I've done a handful of projects with Techstars, which I think a lot of people know who they are, and just had a call last night for a second round of a project that we're doing in Japan, and that was
Yep.
never on the
Never
table when I
possible.
had
Yeah.
people coming in and out of my
Yeah.
studio in Buffalo. So, like, embrace the reach that you can get through
Yep.
this medium. So.
Absolutely. Although from the physical days, what I miss the most is the leather sofa behind the editor. That was always the best place to take a snooze.
Yes. Well, yeah, those days, at least in for my business, are gone now, right? Like
Oh, for
it's
me
a
too, and in a
yeah,
way, good riddance. I
yeah,
did, the last really big job I did, it was a job from Germany, and we shot, New York, LA, oh my God, I forget, Chicago and Hawaii. So between Germany and Hawaii, it was like a 12-hour time difference.
yeah,
I was in the middle of New York, and it was one of those, pull your hair out, all of them one at a time, painful job. And I had already started doing what I do now, sort of in its beginning stages. And although I made a shit ton load of money on that job, I could not wait for it to be over.
yeah.
I actually remember it was September of 17 because I picked up my dog like the day after the job was over. And I'm like, never, ever, 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 ever again do I want to be doing these kinds of jobs anymore. It's just
Yep,
not worth it.
yeah,
Not the stress, not the money, not the drop everything what you do and run out of the restaurant in absolute panic and doing triage on the cell phone without the computer and without being, at your desk is like, nah, no,
yeah, yeah.
done.
it's that is no joke. In
Yeah.
the end, I mean, that's what I find with those Japanese jobs. It works out really well because it's a 12-hour difference, right? So
Yep.
evening
Yep.
for me is morning for them. And but once you add in that second, like another point in between there, like
Yeah.
you're just on call 24
Yep.
hours a day,
Yes.
right?
Yes, exactly.
So it's
Um,
yeah, it's an interesting um it's it's I'll put it this way, it's a problem I never had before the pandemic, and it's an
yeah.
interesting like kind of juggling act to get it all right. But yeah,
Yeah.
add a couple points in there and the
Yeah.
time zones become
Well, and
really
it's also about
problematic.
yeah, it's also about setting boundaries, right,
Yeah.
with your clients. Yeah, and for expectations. So another question that I really wanted to ask you is how do you use video to grow your company?
Yeah, so we do it in a handful of different ways. We do a little bit of live streaming. It's something that we're going to become a little more regular on live
Hmm.
streaming on LinkedIn specifically this next
Hmm.
year. We did it sort of sporadically and tried a few things out last
Yeah.
year. We do, well, it used to be monthly, but now we're bringing in a little bit of a different element, but we have a podcast
Yeah.
that is called the Smarter Business Podcast, and that's one where we talk to folks um, who are doing interesting things with video, and we kind of pick their brain about what they're up to and what what people can learn from their experiences. And then we also do what we kind of have a term in our community called the instant talking head videos, which we
Mm.
use on LinkedIn,
Yep.
which are kind of cool because we do them, we uh, kind of capture them through OBS and have graphics and a closed sequence and everything all built in, and it's live produced. So like
OBS
as
being
OBS is the Open Broadcast Studio. So it's an open
okay.
source
Yep.
piece of software. Was super popular with gamers, especially
Hmm.
pre-pandemic, and now it's a little more mainstream. But so we do those talking head videos for LinkedIn as well. And
Hmm.
then we do a lot of video meetings, both office hours meetings and a meeting like the one where you spoke to our group last
Hmm.
year,
Yep.
where we get people together and they have a chance to kind of network and learn from an industry expert.
Yep.
So those are the ways that we utilize video, mostly from a marketing perspective, and
Hmm.
then we also utilize just mostly streaming Zoom call type stuff for our sales processes as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
And we'll occasionally do some outreach with customized video in that space as well. So
Okay. And do you so you use do you use video like in an email funnel? Do you use video anywhere sort of in your sales funnel other than the outbound podcast, LinkedIn videos, etc.?
yeah, so we do use video, kind of existing video content as part of our, some of our email funnels. So everything from when we do those Thursday evening meetings that we do, uh, people will get replays if they signed up for it. To on the other end of things, if somebody downloads our, we have a PDF strategy guide like so
Hmm.
many other folks do, right? And that kicks off a email sequence that's pretty heavily packed with video content as well.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't, I, and I'm biased, obviously, but I feel like you
I
can
think
put
we
it in
both are.
every every aspect of your business, right?
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
big plus, especially for a solopreneur, is that you only have to do it once, right? You don't
Right.
have to tell people the same thing over and over and over again. You can put it out there and people can consume it as they would like.
Yeah. It's selling while you're sleeping, so to
Right.
speak. Yeah. Yeah. And then, so I had a follow up question, and my brain just did a.
Oh, that's
The follow up question was. The follow up question was. The follow up question was.
hmm,
How do your? Oh yes, it was not a follow up question. It's a new
okay.
question.
All right.
That's why I couldn't. That's why I couldn't wrap my brain around it. Let me say it before I forget it again. So when I started working with my people, at first I thought like, oh, the biggest issue is going to be X. And then, I tackled X being like, the equipment. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's not the biggest issue. So the biggest issue must be Y.
Yep.
And then I tackled Y. And then, I ran out of the alphabet and now we're like at maybe F,
Yeah.
starting all over again.
Right.
So where do you see your community or your people, your clients? What are they bumping up against in terms of video?
So we actually, in general, I found, and I wish I was more scientific about this, but through a couple of polls and a lot of conversations, the big three things that I feel
Mhm.
like are typically what stop people from creating content or integrating it into their business are number one, first and foremost, being afraid to get on camera, right? Being afraid
Yep.
um, to kind of put themselves out there in a public way. It's one thing to jump on a Zoom meeting when you have to get on a
Yep.
meeting, but it's another thing to push yourself out there. That's a big thing. The
Mhm.
second thing, just like you brought up, was gear. A lot of people get real hung up on the gear, and they either, kind of go way too deep into it and want to,
Yep.
like, have a home studio that's well beyond anything that's going to really serve their purposes,
Exactly.
or they use that as a good excuse to
Not to.
continue to research for months and years and never actually create a
Yep.
video. And then the third, I'm going to lump a bunch of things together and just say knowledge, right? Like it's
Mhm. Yeah.
whether it's what ideas you need to like creating ideas for video content, or
Content. Yeah.
how to edit if you need to edit, or do the live production like I mentioned, like just the kind of nuts and bolts of actually creating that content.
Yeah.
um Actually, I'm going to throw in a fourth one. The fourth one, the one where I always get hung up, and I don't know if it's as much of an issue for other folks as it is for me, but it's time, right? Like
Yeah.
time time when you actually, and that was one of the great things you brought up in your talk with my group, I remember,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
when you create that budget, right?
Yeah.
You had a segment in your presentation that was talking about budgeting, and if you're doing it yourself, make sure you budget time, which is
Yeah.
brilliant. So thank you again for that.
You're very
That
welcome.
that one, that, I mean, that's just a great point, right? People who
Yeah.
are like, well, I'm not going to spend any money on this, so I don't have to worry about it, and then they spend 3 days doing something
Yeah.
that should have taken an hour, right? And
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
that can be really disconcerting, and that can really take the wind out of your sails when you're starting a content campaign or whatever
Yeah.
you're trying to do with video.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think getting stuck in the, as you said, I mean, you said that so well, getting stuck in the it hiding behind the equipment and the technical aspects of it.
Yeah.
And to me, I lump so I always say there's three as well, and I'm sure I could add a fourth and fifth if I
Yeah.
thought about it. But and they're actually the same ones you have. They're slightly differently weighted. I
Okay.
would say there's the overwhelm, right, of
Yeah.
not knowing where to even start, right? And the overwhelm is production, it's equipment, it's just that like.
Yeah.
And then I always say the second one is confidence, and it's the confidence of, having to be on camera, and also the confidence of, am I going to sound dumb? Are people going to throw rocks at me? Am I intellectually interesting enough? Right. And so those are sort of the two pronged approach to confidence. And then the third one is not knowing how to use video to attract, like not having a system in place
Right.
so they can actually attract the clients they want to be attracting. And I think the system, it sort of speaks into the overwhelm as well, but it definitely, I find those are sort of the 3 points that I normally address with my folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good grouping.
Yeah.
And those are all, yeah,
Yeah.
things that everybody experiences. I
Do
think.
you find that your people are a little on the older side as well, or do you get younger folks as well?
So our general demographic is anywhere from, I would say, 40 to, well, I think we actually have a pretty good kind of 40 to 55 ish
Hmm.
range. So it's yeah, it's I don't know if I can't call that older. That's I'm on the younger end of that spectrum, but
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of people who like have enough experience with video that they can recognize um, how powerful it can be,
Yeah.
but they just need to fill in some of those blanks to take that next step.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting. Yeah. I find that younger folks, I mean, and when I say younger, like 30, early 40s, that they kind of know they don't have as much of a oof video. For them, it's, I think, much more natural to be in front of it, to show up in it, to deal with the technical aspects of it. They might still have the same sort of, questions around content creation and strategy and all that.
sure.
But in terms of sort of the technical overwhelm, the production overwhelm, all of that, I find them to have much, much more ease around a lot of what I find 45 up to maybe not yet have, or 50 up.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean,
Mm.
once you get into folks who have, been shooting selfies and posting to social media for a good chunk of their life, like,
Yep.
yeah, they've taken care of the whole confidence issue and getting in front of camera and
Yep.
all that. So
Right.
then it's just how to use the medium properly to grow your business, which
Yep, for
it's
sure.
a can of worms in its own right.
In its
So
own right, for
yeah.
sure. And talking of which, would you have any, like, sort of what are they called? KPIs, key performance indicators. Do you do any analytics on your video, or you just sort of do spaghetti at the wall?
So our video, in general, I'm not afraid to try things that
Mm,
I think will resonate with my audience. Um, but it's got to provide results, or we do hang it up. So
okay.
the overall KPIs, like the overall analytics that we look at, are not necessarily ones that you would see on LinkedIn or YouTube,
Mhm.
because like, say, views, right? A lot of people get hung up on views. How many views did this thing get?
Yeah, not important.
That's it really isn't. It's a vanity metric. Like, if you get one view and it's the right view, it's the person who actually wants to do business with you, success, right? Like,
Yeah,
so the when we go and do analytics, it's more tied to, did this drive people to our free events? Did this result in signups? Did this
yeah,
impact us in some other way? So it's not the easy metrics, I guess. It's not the easy analytics. It's more the go back and look in, I'm going to call it pen and paper analytics kind of thing. Right?
yeah.
We're
Oh no,
doing check
I totally
marks,
agree
right?
with you. Especially
So,
since views on, especially like LinkedIn.
mhm,
I would say once you start posting videos, your views are going to drop into the cellar, because views just get counted completely different on a video than on a written post.
yep,
And as I use the exact same terminology, views are a vanity metric, and if any metric on LinkedIn, you want to look at an engagement, at comments.
yeah,
That's where the gold lies. And then engaging with those people, not just looking at them, but actually grabbing them and having a conversation with them. That's the
right.
opportunity, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and actually that's something, I guess, that's recently kind of been something I've been pushing in my own group is, um as a content creator, somebody who's going to use video yourself, don't be
Mhm.
afraid to go out there and comment on other people's posts. And like, a lot of folks are like, well, I don't know if I have something good to say, or like, do they want
Mhm.
me as a competitor or something commenting on
Yep.
their posts? People create content because they
Mhm.
want you to do exactly that, right? So
Yep.
like, that kind of comes back, and if you're commenting on their stuff, they're more likely to look at your stuff. You're more likely to generate interest and so on there. So it's all a synergistic system. So if you want more comments, and that's a
Mhm.
KPI you're focused on, go out there and comment on other people's stuff, and it kind of comes back and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll take a comment over a view every day, and
Yeah.
views versus impressions on LinkedIn are, as you said, apples to oranges. Those are
Yeah.
not the same thing. So yeah.
No, certainly are not. And I think also to your point is, when you do post videos, and that's I think the call to action. I always say, like, if you're posting a video without a call to action, then you might as well just not even bother doing a video. Because if you make it easy for people to engage with you by asking a really specific and succinct question, or giving them a very specific task,
Hmm.
then you're A, you don't need to be salesy, and B, you get people to engage with you in a non-threatening way. And I think that is always really important to not lose sight of, right? Is what is your call to action at the end of a video?
Yeah. Yeah. There should always be I mean, that goes for any social post, unless you're just
Mhm.
purely branding. Uh, what's next? What do you
Mhm.
want people to do?
Yeah,
Right. So,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
What is the reason for creating the video to begin with?
Yeah.
So Neil, you mentioned earlier that you have a talk coming up for your community that you wanted to talk about briefly and invite people into. So
Sure.
this is your moment to do so. And I think we have a link for it as well, which I see Bryn giving me a thumbs up in the background. So we're going to post a
All
link
right.
in social media so people can sign up.
Yeah, the so we do twice monthly talks that are open to the public as part of the VidWheel Creator Network. We're trying to give people an idea of what the power of, kind of like a community based production, kind of system could do for you.
Hmm.
And so we invite people to those. The next one is tomorrow night uh, at 8 p.m. Eastern, and it features Michelle Forsyth, who's a coach and productivity expert, and she's going to give a talk that's called "How to Stay Productive While Creating Video Content," which is something during some of my rambling at some point during this episode, I did talk about the time factor, and, like,
Yes,
it is
important.
a, a big hurdle for people. Like,
Yeah.
how do you continue to do the job that people are paying you to do while creating video content? So that's some of what we're going to talk about. That's tied into what all of our content on the network, and a good amount of what's off the network on my LinkedIn and so on will be
Mhm.
about, which for the month of January is opportunities and planning when it comes to video. And
Awesome.
yeah, everyone's welcome to attend. They're free, they're fun. Nina spoke at one last year. We have
Yep.
industry experts come in and give you the kind of how to and the dirt on how to improve your business. So it's a
Yep.
good time.
Awesome. Excellent. So guys, yes, I did speak at one of them. It was a really interesting group of people, very engaged, lots of really cool questions. You get to ask questions. And for what I've seen, Neil really does bring in some wonderful guests like myself. And so definitely check it out. And if you're available tomorrow night, it's is it 8 p.m. Eastern, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly? Yeah.
8 p.m. Eastern. And
Yeah.
if you're not able to make the actual event time, if you RSVP yes to it, uh, I'll send you an email via, or a replay via email.
Okay,
You
great.
end up on the replay list. So.
Yep. Awesome. Very cool. Well, Neil, anything I should have asked you, I did not ask you.
See, I do this at the end of every interview too, right? Like, the anything missing, it's so often where you get the best sound bites. So I almost am ready to leave it at that. When you're doing an interview, ask that last. But no,
That's
I would say to anyone who's thinking about creating content or using video within your business, uh, the thing that I often tell people within the community or thinking about it is the easiest way to create high quality video content is to talk to someone smarter than you, which is what I'm doing with Nina right now, talking to someone smarter than me, and record it. And there you go. You've got
yeah.
great high quality content. You can chop it up for social media purposes. and you have a good long form piece of content. So that's what I'm going to go with.
I love it. It's a gift that keeps giving, right? Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely.
Neil, that is excellent advice and advice I would give as well. So, and thank you for the compliment, of course. And, I feel the same way about you. So happy party all over. And thank you so much for your time and for sharing so openly how video, how you do video and what works and doesn't for you. And it's just always, I find super interesting to see what works for others, and how you tackle the beast or the lovely or whatever you want to call it, that
Yes.
is video, and that keeps us out in the world, even in a way like physically when we can, right? And I think that is that seismic shift that we've all gone through in the last couple of years, and which is why we're doing what we're doing, and we're doing it, successfully. So
Yes. Yeah.
um, there's
Th-
that.
Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, thanks for all the great questions. You make me look like I know what I'm talking about, which is great. So
That's my job.
uh, thanks.
And thank you for everybody who stuck around. It looks like Chella did stick around. Thank you so much. And Curtis, same to you. And there is a LinkedIn user that we can't see who it is. Thank you for sticking around. And we'll all see you already next week again. We're catching up a bit after a slow end to the year last year. And I hope you all have a wonderful start into your 2022. Be well, be healthy, stay out of harm's way, and we'll see you all next week. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.